cannot buy the medicine they need, and that is now happening far too often in the richest nation in the world. It is because we agree with Senator Sanders that we affirm the result. The United States should adopt prescription drug price controls. For our definitions, prescription drug. The FDA defines this as the following: prescribed by a doctor, bought at a pharmacy, and prescribed for and intended to be used by one person, regulated by FDA through the new drug application process. Drug prices. Prices of the drugs we just said and controlled by the FDA. Control. Regulations that prevent pharmaceutical companies from increasing drug prices to unreasonable, unattainable heights. And we have two observations. One, Americans are struggling to afford drugs imperative to their health, causing varying negative health effects. Two, in the current system, pharmaceutical companies have full control over the prices of their products. So for our first contention, U.S. citizens will have a facilitated access to necessary prescription drugs for their illness. The cost of prescription drugs are overwhelming the lives of patients in the United States. National Public Radio journalist Liz Szabó interviewed 65-year-old John Crane. According to Szabó, in December of 2016, Crane's lung cancer had become aggressive, and for treatment, the doctor suggested a drug called Alecensa. The drug cost more than $159,000 a year. Crane had Medicare insurance, but even with this, his copay would be $3,200 in December and again in January in the new year of coverage. Despite the dangerous nature of his condition, Crane chose to wait to fill his prescription until the new year and until he could receive some financial assistance. Keep in mind again, Crane had insurance. Crane's situation is not unique. Many Americans take their health into their own hands and skip medication or reduce their doses to save money. Brad Tuttle from Time Magazine stated the following: 20% of Americans who take prescription drugs report that they or a family member have skipped them or cut them in half because the drugs are so expensive. 10% of patients with blood cancer, multiple myeloma, said they stopped taking a drug to treat it because it costs too much. And 55% of adults aged 50 and up who decided not to refill a prescription said that the cost of the drug was one of the reasons for skipping it, according to an AARP survey, and nearly one-third said cost was the main reason for not refilling the prescription. As Szabó pointed out, people who are ill and cannot afford frequent treatment cannot maintain their jobs, and if they lose their jobs, they frequently lose their health insurance. This cycle cannot end unless the pharmaceutical industry is restrained from abusing their excessive amount of power, and that is why drug price controls should be implemented. For our second contention, pharmaceutical companies will no longer have the unmitigated power to take advantage of the American people. Pharmaceutical companies have complete jurisdiction over the pricing of prescription drugs. There are several examples of companies taking advantage of that power. In 2015, Martin Shkreli, CEO of Turing Pharmaceuticals, dramatically increased the price of Daraprim, a medication that treats malaria. According to Tuttle, patients went from paying $13.50 for a pill to $750 for a single pill for a full bottle, equaling $75,000. The drug company Mylan more gradually at least, increased the price of the life-saving EpiPen, which treats severe allergic reactions, from $100 for a 2-pack in 2006 to today where a 2-pack is over $600. And that's also according to Tuttle. The industry as a whole is consistently increasing its prices to the detriment of the public. Companies could justify these dreadful actions with inflation, but it is natural for prices of products to increase as time goes on, but inflation cannot justify these increases in prices. According to Tuttle, the rate of inflation was only 1% from May 2015 to 2016, yet drug prices increased 10%. These increases of approximately 10% or more has happened 3 years in a row. The government's lack of involvement within the pharmaceutical industry is perhaps due to intense lobbying the companies partake. Tuttle states that pharmaceutical companies spend the most money on lobbying out of any other industry in America, lobbying approximately $231 million just in 2015. There is no reason for this consistent and ridiculous increase in price. The only reason pharmaceutical companies are doing this is because they can. Money is more important to these companies than the public health of our nation. It is because of this that today we affirm the resolve that the United States should adopt prescription drug price controls.
we want to raise it? I was thinking the same thing. I was about to say.
Hey, I hate to be rude, but I gotta record this. I was wondering if let me take a look. Maybe if y'all wouldn't mind, yeah, just scooting right there.
We all
Yeah.
sit down one?
It's mostly where you are sitting. So if you sit right there, then I got a good spot.
Improviser.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay. Sorry to make y'all move.
No, that's fine. So is this good?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yep.
Yep. Medicine has been a critical part of human evolution. From the ancient Greek legend Alcibiades to our modern miracles of medicine, medicine has been important in life-saving since the dawn of time. Recently, as my opponents pointed out, the U.S. has had many issues with government regulation in healthcare. Right now, the United States has the largest pharmaceutical market, but we do have the largest drug prices. However, this should not allow for government to interfere with the market of medicine, which would only be a prescription for trouble. Which is why we, the negating side, negate the resolution that the United States should adopt prescription drug price controls. I'd like to define a couple of terms first. Most importantly, I think that adopt is the most ambiguous of the words used in the resolution. The resolution likes to keep it, or the resolution is very abstract, kind of ambiguous. However, adopt, I think, implies a sense of using something that has been used before. Using a price control, as they say, to that has been used in the past here in America and elsewhere for pharmaceutical companies. My opponents mentioned that the price control, they defined it as the ability not to raise a price too high, that the price control would only be for lowering prices. However, the past price controls implemented by let's see who it is, Representative John Connors, a Democrat from Michigan. A key element of his proposal in 2003 was that the government was the only was the sole purchaser of pharmaceuticals, and the government was the only one who could negotiate with the manufacturers to set prices. This is a monopoly. That is a monopoly when the government is the only one who can negotiate prices. In fact, and he hasn't just the Representative Connors hasn't just tried to propose this bill once. In fact, he proposed this bill in every subsequent Congress since 2003. So that's 14 different uses of this price control that our opponent said that would only lower prices, but this obviously, it does more than just that. I don't think that's the only thing it does. Now, a couple of observations. Due to the ambiguity again, because the terms are very loose, the U.S. government, due to the ambiguity of the resolution, we have decided that the price controls control just that, like our opponent said, just the price. The U.S. government has done in the past after modeling other price controls. Another observation, we choose to focus on price controls in regards to medicine only. We don't want to look at price controls found in other forms of the government, other markets.